and welcome to Three Coaches, One Topic. And Happy New Year if you didn't tune in last week. And today I've got two very special guests, Jihan and Liz. And before we get started, I will let them both introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what they do and who they are and where they come from. Over to you, Jihan.
Jihan is starting. Okay. So hi everyone. So I'm Jihan Gatti. I'm the founder of Expand Coach, which is a leadership consultancy and executive coaching. So I help high achievers, leaders, and teams to actually perform better and have a bigger impact. So basically, it's all about resilience, mental fitness, how to really improve your well-being and just expand as a human being and as a professional at the same time. So that's
Thank you. Thank you, Jihan. And Liz.
So hello, everybody. I'm Liz Cressy. I'm from the great state of Vermont in the Northeast of the United States. And I have a company called Legacy of Growth. And I work with clients who, just like our topic today, feel stuck, like their life is slowly being siphoned out of them, to sort of clear the haze and move forward into a life of fulfillment and purpose. I also work with the aspiring entrepreneur looking to start a business, either a side business or one that they'll ultimately grow into. So that's me.
Thank you, Liz. And just a little bit of a backstory. Liz and I met each other a couple of years back when we both started. We're founding members of Jay Shetty Certification School, and we were in the same subgroup, and we hit it off, and we started another subgroup.
Definitely. The subs of the subs. Yes.
Which, funny that Jihan, you know Coaches Supporting Coaches inside out because you are a regular, and I'm very grateful for that. But that format is pretty much what I started in the Jay Shetty Certification School for us in our subgroup. So, yeah, you're an honorary member, Liz.
Oh, awesome. I would be there if I lived closer.
Yeah, you'd be more than welcome. And I would, we coach each other. We've done that for over, a year and a half, 2 years now. So you've really helped and supported me with my growth. So for that, I'm very, very grateful for. Thank you. Okay, so today's topic is feeling stuck and getting started. And is it a blessing in disguise?
Amen.
So, yeah, I'm going to throw that first question out to you guys. Is it a blessing in disguise?
Jihan, you want to take that?
I think you want to, Liz. Go on.
I definitely think it's a blessing in disguise. And the reason I think it is a blessing in disguise is because we spend so much time in our lives just going through the motions. And it's not, I mean, as a coach, that's what we want for our clients, to be more intentional and to move into whatever it is they're coming to us for. But that feeling of stuckness is like a flag. And it's a flag that's coming up, a warning sign, if you will, before something major happens, usually. Sometimes it's after. But it's our being saying to us, like, hey, wait a minute, like, this just isn't working for us anymore. We're growing out of the person that we were. And I mean, we're living beings, right? So we're always growing. And it's just I believe it's just one indication that we're poised on the precipice of something great.
No,
I like that.
That's amazing, because the first, when I read what Donna was saying, like being stuck is at the
What's Donna saying now?
Okay, I mean, stuckness is something that is not nice in terms of the feeling. Like, it doesn't feel great at all. And you see a lot of coaches saying, do you feel stuck? ta 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 ta, like it's that's the pain point, and that's something that's awful, and that's something that you need to get out of. But as Liz was saying, is it's just like I mean, the image I have in my mind is like what you call the butterfly before it's a butterfly.
Oh,
Chrysalis.
in the cocoon, in the
In
chrysalis
the
there.
cocoon, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's like that. It's starting to get like the butterfly is already formed, and it feels stuck. And because it feels stuck, that's where he has the energy to actually just go out. So
great
it's
image.
it's the change of perspective. If it doesn't feel good, doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that something wants to emerge from that cocoon, and take that energy and do something to get out of it. So that would be my take on it.
I love it.
Yeah, yeah, great, great. And for me, what comes up, I get excited, and again, it is about your mindset and flipping it. And like you mentioned, Jihan, I've seen posts from other coaches going, "Are you stuck?" And then it goes further deep. Are you unhappy with it? Are you? And I'm just like, oh my god, yeah, no, I am miserable. But when I feel stuck, I get excited because I feel like I am getting, some people call it a sign, some people call it a sign from the universe, what have you. Donna, it's time to take action. You've outgrown the situation, or it's time to reach out and get support, get guidance from other people or other resources. So for me, it is very exciting. So I like getting stuck because it shows that I'm moving forward.
Yeah,
So,
I can
see,
understand that.
I still don't like getting stuck because I'm still not to that phase where I would be excited that I'm stuck. It's a habit. Like we are used to, like, getting stuck is not nice, so staying there. And I think the habit is about, why am I stuck now? What does that mean? Blah 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 blah. Why the best thing to do is what you caterpillar. Thank you, Marina.
Were we saying everything else?
But
Thank you, Marina.
yeah, it's what was I saying before? Now I forgot. But yeah, I'm not getting excited yet about that. But I think it needs to be also like kind of a habit,
Yeah.
to do something, not to get out of that state, but as you said, to see it as just an indication, and then take that
Mm.
indication, not trying to fight it, not doing something against it, but just move away, not move away, but just move on with it. Like another, I don't know what the image is today, but it's like this image saying, stuckness is here or sphere is here in the car, and I'm driving the car. That's fine, just go in the back seat. I don't need to get you out of the car. Go, you're on the back seat, but I'm still driving. That feeling of stuckness can
Mm.
Love
stay.
that.
That feeling of fear can stay. It's okay. I'm not spending my energy trying to convince you to go or trying to throw you out, but just driving the car.
And you don't need to make drastic changes. So I have to put that up. That's my daughter.
Oh,
Hi, Lauren.
Thank you, darling. Yeah, I mean, and it hits all of us. Doesn't matter where we are in our lives, what age, uh, the circumstances. But it doesn't necessarily mean you have to make those drastic changes.
No,
It doesn't mean like, oh, I'm feeling stuck. Oh, that means, I've got to move. Everything's bad.
no, it doesn't. You brought it's thank you, GM, for that metaphor, because what that brought up for me, and I think a lot in pictures, is the concept of running out of your roadmap. So you know where you want to go, and you have a map in place, and you get to the end of wherever that map is. And now you're sort of driving around in circles trying to figure out where to pick the road up again. And that to me is how I see a lot of stuckness. Now, I mean, I certainly can, but I don't focus on things like being stuck um in a certain situation, like a bad relationship, but I guess it's the same thing, right? It's talking about yourself and your own journey. And when you're traveling down that road, it's like, being a boat, all of a sudden the rudder's gone and now you're just going around in circles until you can pick it up again. So that's what I see.
We've just got another comment here. I'm just going to put this up. And it's from Paul. Such a good point, Donna. All at our own pace, and sometimes the moving needs to start within, which is what you were just saying, Liz. And we've got another one here from Maxine, who is another fellow
Yes.
Jay Shetty certification school colleague. I consider it a sign saying, pay attention. You are now receptive to change, and you are subconsciously recognizing that. Yeah,
Agreed.
it's very much like that wake up call, isn't it? It's just sometimes about saying, breathe, pause, get your grounding. What do you need? And what does that need look like? Do you need compassion? Do you need resources? Do you need information? Do you need a change of environment?
I think too, sometimes the reason it's that we feel stuck and it feels so overwhelming is it's like we've had that tap on the shoulder, that light tap to say, hey, maybe you want to, think about moving into something else. Hey, maybe you need to grow here. Hey. And we don't listen. And then it keeps tapping and it keeps tapping, and then it starts pounding, and then it starts, eventually it like locks us in a room like, hey, you're not listening to me. So it's that overwhelming feeling. And then one day we wake up, it's like from one day to the next, and we're like, I don't understand why I feel so stuck, because you've missed the little tappings along the way.
Yeah, I love that. What's coming up for you, Shihan? I can see your
it's the fear, because as Liz was also talking about the map, and she said you like get into the border of the map. For me, it's like getting into the border of what you know. And now that tapping is to tell you just go and explore maybe something else and something outside. And that's the thing with me with everything also regarding to coaching and change. We talk about the importance of being aware and knowing yourself, etc. And yet sometimes I think it's obviously something that's very important, but it might not be enough, because you might know that's the problem, what it is, but then what to do instead. Like, if I don't do that, if I go out, how can I go out? So that, because why do you think people don't listen to that tapping? What's preventing them? Even if they hear this, they might say, okay, so something maybe needs that I need to expand, and I'm ready for that. But I still feel stuck because I don't know what.
Well, I think you're right. I think there is the fear in that. I honestly, I think one of the reasons that we don't listen to the tapping is because I think we're all expecting like the angels to like shine down on us, and the harps to be playing in the background when something major is coming, and it doesn't happen that way. It happens very quietly. It happens very subtly, and then that's why they talk about it in the in the meditation techniques and things like that. It's in that gap between the event and your reaction that you're going to get that kind of wisdom, but we don't take time to look for the gap. We're just so busy trying to get through it, and that fear too will cloud us. And there's a very fine line between fear and excitement, and I have found that if I'm terrified of something or I'm afraid of something, I get myself so psyched up, and I just run around the house telling myself how excited I am, jumping up and down, and then I tackle it, whatever that is. And it doesn't feel so bad anymore. And then you get through it and you're like, wow, that was amazing. And then it's easier the next time and easier the next time. So it's just, I think, understanding ourselves and our process, and and turning to some of the available, I don't want to call them tools, but available exercises or things that we can do. It's all about hacking ourselves, because if we all knew we'd all be doing, right?
Yeah, but you make see, what I loved about what you just said is about the tapping and then you got to the pounding. And I actually felt that in my body when you said that. Because once it gets to the pounding, that's when you're going to start having that anxiety, and that's when you're going to start reacting rather than responding. So it is about, as you said, knowing, having those awareness tools. So when you sense it, it doesn't have to be smack bang in your face. That's usually when that's pounding, when it's just like the sign is here. I mean, and to pay attention. I've got a comment here from Kelly. Kelly again, bless her, she's one another coach. And I think when people feel stuck, they may feel that they are falling. I can't read it, but can somebody else read it?
Failing.
I haven't got.
They may
Yeah.
feel that they are failing. That ignites fear, which then limits their perspective. Sometimes I've had to bathe in the stuckness and let things organically unfold.
Ooh.
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And here's another one from Maxine. Liz, I'll let you read it. I've got you.
Donna, you spoke about the flip of our perspective, changing our mindset from fear to excitement, then action. What tools do you use? Any tips?
Right. So, funny enough, all of us, thank you for your question there, Maxine, was talking about tools and strategies that we use to try and help flip our mindset, and also to give us some clarity and awareness. So who would like to start? Because both of you came up with some really good examples, and then I'll chime in as well.
Go for it, Jihan.
Okay. So one that I'll share maybe two now. One is because the fear is about what's going to happen if I do this or if I change. And I want someone to rather ask the other question, what's going to happen if I don't do it? So the other way around, if I don't do anything, what's going to happen? And not only now to me now, but what's going to happen for me in 1 year or 2 years or 3 years? Because one of the things that I love is this idea to saying, if you don't do something sometimes, or if you procrastinate or whatever, you don't care enough about your future self. Like if someone knows that he needs to do something about his health, but they still don't do it. One of the reasons, I know it can be deeper and more complicated, etc., but it means that that person doesn't care enough about themselves in 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years. And if you can project your future self, and I don't know why I have this now in my mind. It's something different, and I never used it, but I'm sharing it just in the case it came, so someone might benefit from it. I heard someone saying, in terms of health, someone who doesn't have a good relationship with their body, but for whatever reason, to do this exercise of write a letter from you to your body. And then write a letter from your body to yourself.
Oh my God, no. My body would have a mouthful.
We flip this, you write a letter from you to your future self, and your future self to you, talking to you about the situation.
I love that.
I love that. Oh my God, Jihan, you are on fire today. I love that.
Thanks to you. I think Liz said she's a lot into images, so I think there was some kind of.
Yeah, I love that, because we don't take a lot of time to consider the other side of that coin, right? So just the question of what happens if you don't do X, Y, and Z, that to me is kind of one of those shake-up questions, because we all focus from here forward, I think, at least in my experience, from here forward. But we don't take the time to kind of, fast forward ourselves to the future and look back. I mean, but that's what we have, right? What do we want to be able to look back and say that we've accomplished or we've become, or or how we've impacted the people and the communities in the world around us? We don't think about that here forward. We think about that when we're 95 and, and facing the next chapter or not of our life, or whatever we want to call that. But nobody on their deathbed has ever said things like, I wish I worked more, or I wish I had crappier relationships. Like, we don't think about that here and now to make it intentional. So
Mhm.
I love kind of flipping it around and looking back and saying, what happens if I don't do this? If I don't get out of whatever I'm doing, or
And it's
and the
good to
letter is a
have
good
a
idea.
sounding partner to do that with,
Yes.
because if you're in a really good place and you're saying to your future self, your internal dialogue is going to be completely different. So you need that equilibrium. You need
Yes.
to be in not a fantastic, I'm flying high, everything's hunky dory, and not in that pounding stuckness of despair. You've got to have that middle ground where you can, analyze the situation and reflect upon it unbiasedly as well. And
Yeah,
but with having that growth partner or that brainstorming partner, that would be really, really helpful.
definitely. Just having somebody else to do it with, they bring a different perspective, and they're looking at whatever the topic is that you're talking about with yourself from outside. And they're going to ask you the questions that might seem obvious when they're asked, but they weren't obvious enough to you necessarily when you were in the middle of it. And somehow it just sounds different when it comes from somebody, especially if they have a nice accent like yours, Donna.
Why do you know
No
me
one.
because I've got a nice accent?
There you go.
But it's not necessarily having that soundboard and them telling you things. It's especially when you have a coach. This is why it's really important to have a coach for those brainstorming, those brain dumping sessions. To and the coach doesn't necessarily have to ask you those powerful questions. They can just repeat your words back to
Oh,
you.
hell yeah. Yeah.
Because sometimes you go, oh, really, I said that?
Yeah.
Or really, I'm using that word a lot.
Mhm.
And I did not notice it until I heard you say it. So that is extremely powerful.
Agreed.
And I just got something in my mind when you said it's about asking someone else. This is a technique from another coach that I used, and it was very helpful. So it's about like having a board meeting. So it's like different parts of myself, and I just did that. Like one day, I put okay the date. It's my board, my executive board meeting, and it's like different parts of me. The one that doesn't want to do it, the one that's confused, the one, and I'm like, okay, you are or we are all in around the table, so it allows me to distance myself. It was really fun, like distance myself and then start okay, so let's look at you that's saying don't do it, don't do it. What are the results? Like what's the factual results that are happening right now? Are we achieving our results? No. Okay, so let's change. So it's like everyone has the right to speak on the table, but then we look at facts. So what do we need to do? So you spoke. Now we're going to look at this other person advice. But it was like I come from corporate, so it was very nice for me to like, okay, board meeting today. You speak, you speak, you speak, you speak, you speak, different parts. Okay, we take that into account. This is not working for us. We're following this opinion this time, not the other one.
Yeah,
But you
absolutely.
made a point before on how, like Donna was saying, how to come to that middle ground to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you can start this at an early age. When you've got a family, I used to do this with my children, and it would be a family meeting, and it would be a case of, okay, these are some opportunities open to us, or this is the situation, let's brainstorm. What do you see? What do you feel? What do you think? And then, okay, so well, and no answer was silly or off the board. It was a case of, okay, well, what can we try now? What's going to work? And if this doesn't work, what's our backup plan? So it gives everybody that chance to speak. It gives everybody that chance to know we all get stuck.
Yeah.
And it's good to see maybe what other options are available to us.
That brings up for me when you're talking about the brainstorming and the options, it's it's the idea that there are really no bad options. They all have a piece of, if you come at it saying that there's a piece of that's good, and that's, and you, let's expand on it. So, if you were like, well, my life is, I'm so stuck, and and one of the brainstorming things was, okay, let's eat French fries, right? Okay, um, eating French fries, that tastes good. That's a good, but like, what else can we do? And just building upon that. So, because when we start brainstorming things and trying to figure out where we are or where we can go or ideas, when we start going, oh, that's stupid, nobody eats French fries, like that's just ridiculous, like that just shuts you down. And it's about getting resourceful within ourselves when we're trying to figure out what's exciting to us. And I think that that's where we need to know a little bit more about ourselves and dive in, and using a coach to do that is super helpful, because you can get into the things that are important to you that you might not even know, like some of the values that you carry around, or the way you show up,
Mm.
because you're so in it, you can't really put your finger on it. And having that mirror, as you were talking, Donna, is great, because it does, we can repeat back to you, or and show you how you're showing up to an outside person. And that, I think, helps get some clarity, and then from there you can know what's exciting, and move towards that.
So, what would you do for gaining more clarity? Okay, so, if you've got a lot going on in your life and you're ignoring the taps and it's getting to that pounding situation, what habits can you start forming that will help with that awareness for, for you to take that pause and go, oh yeah, okay, it's time for me to actually listen and to observe what's going on here?
Let's
Jihan,
go
did you
on.
want to say?
No, no, because you had a good point when we discussed earlier.
Um, so I'm not a super great meditator, so I'm a brain dumper. And I think that's, for me, a critical thing. And what I mean by that is, as we were talking before, we take out a piece of paper and we just throw everything that's in our head out on the paper. And that allows me to have some distance, to remove some of the emotion. And I can go back through that, and I can see, for me, where, um, what feels the most important in the moment, or the most poignant, um, for me, and then I can address that. And I love, and I know we were talking about this before, but I love the idea of prove it, right? So when I'm feeling not strong in a situation, or I'm feeling like this is bad, this is awful, I ask myself the questions of, well, where's the proof? Like, show me, give me facts, so I can then be much more logical about it, and then I have to put it down for a little while and come back to it. But that's just how I deal with it.
Yeah, no, I like that. Jihan, you had something leading on to that, from that as well, with regards to the brain dumping and
Yeah,
proof.
because I think I also love brain dumping, because contrary to asking questions, etc., as I said before, you don't, sometimes, even if you are coaches, we don't feel like using that tool or like going into the deep questions. So brain dumping is really, really relieving. Like everything out on a piece of paper. You don't need to keep it in your head. It's out there. And then after that, I think one thing that came up for me is sometimes we are stuck because we don't see the options, because the only option we're seeing, don't have no control on it.
Mm.
Like, I'm stuck in my job, I'm not getting this promotion, I'm not getting this, it's like the victim mode, and everything, it's because of the organization, because of the politics. I'm just taking that example, but so the options are limited, because obviously you cannot specifically control what's going on in the politics, in the corporate politics, or with your boss or whatever. And it's just to refocus back here. Like, what can you really do? Because at the end, it's a feeling. Like it's your perception of what's going. What can you really do to change your state of mind? Refocus back. I think there's no worse feeling than feeling out of control, feeling someone else is controlling your life. No one ever is controlling our life. Like, we can still, someone said happiness is only one thought away.
Yeah.
And for some people, that might be a very provocative sentence, like, what the hell? Of course not. But really, if you think about it, if you bring now in memory a very, very nice moment in your life, like, you will feel your heart will just open, like right now. Even if you are in this call, you just bring that in your mind, and then happiness is only one thought away. So we just need to be mindful of the word of thoughts.
Yeah.
And what is stuckness really, and what's going on in here. And someone also said it in the comments, I don't remember who, sometimes you just sit with that feeling, don't do anything, and it will go away.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it does, but also you make an important point about the being at work, Shehan, and not liking your boss and all the rest of it. Again, there's always lessons to be learned in those situations. So learn from this situation and say, okay, I don't like how that boss is treating me. I don't like how they communicate. I don't like their body language. I don't And make sure you don't do that when you're somebody's boss, or when you're communicating with your boss. Talk to them the way you want to be spoken to. Don't react, respond. So if you want your boss or your colleagues to talk to you nice, or to lower their voice, or to do whatever, do that and continue to do that, because they will learn as well. And if you don't have those open conversations, they're not going to know. They may not realize what they're doing. So again, it is about taking that action. So
yeah. And it's interesting, because initially I'm like, we're talking about stuck, and stuck for me means like you're stuck and you can't move. And at the same time, you were saying it's about excitement and action, and I'm like, stuck, action, like and now as you're talking about it, I'm like, there is energy in there. It's stuck because it's not going to the right direction. So it's like, there is otherwise, what is stuck? There's nothing. If there's nothing is stuck. So there's an energy in there, just about redirecting them, as you said, on what you can do and making the change here. Otherwise, it's that resistance that is stuck. It's like pushing into something that cannot be open, because that's not what is supposed to open anyway.
I love
and
it.
it's not going to be like that forever. And at the end of the day, it's a stepping stone.
Yeah.
It really is a stepping stone of what is possible and what's around the corner that you do not know. Nobody knows. We can plan to the last millisecond, and in 1 second's time, that could all change. There's so many things that are out of our control. But yeah, exactly. So staying stuck is also your perception of what that stuckness is. And maybe sometimes you're giving it way too much power.
Yep.
And I just want to mention, because Paul Smith he left a comment, and he runs Coaching Minds, and he did a webinar, and it was really, really good about your mindset and your different environments, mindset, social and physical. And again, when you're stuck, is it a social, is it a mindset, or is it a physical thing? So there's different ways that you can release those energies. If it is building up, you're human. How are you going to release it? How does that land with you guys?
Move. Like physically move. I think we forget that. But if you feel stuck emotionally or in your career or whatever, go into physical movement, because that somehow releases a bit. It has some kind of magic. I mean, we talked about Jim Quick before. He says when the body moves, the mind grooves. And I find it real, like shaking the body, just shaking it already does a lot of great
Yeah,
benefit
it
to the
moves the
mind.
energy around, and
Mm.
that's definitely something that will help start the ball rolling. I just want to touch on something so that it doesn't get lost. And Jihen, you were talking about um, y- uh, perspective, and you too, Donna, we're talking about perspective. And what I'd like to throw out there is that sometimes the stuck that we feel, perhaps, um, and you made the point, Jihen, of pushing against a door that's a pull door, right? So my question to throw out there to the stuckness is, what where's my focus? Because I think a lot of the times the stuck is because I'm focusing outward,
Mm.
and what's not happening out there, versus focusing inward on what I can do to make a shift. Even a tiny little shift. If
Yeah.
you turn your thermostat up 1 degree a day or 1 degree an hour, you're gonna be sweating your butt off in no time. If you're sailing a boat and you move 1 degree,
Yeah.
you're gonna be completely on the other side of the world. And that's really all it takes. It doesn't mean that it has to be this big grandiose thing. Just a little a little shift, and that starts the momentum, but it's taking the focus from out here back in here. And I think that that will speak to the feeling of control, that we feel like when we don't feel like we have control, it's because we're not focusing on the only thing we have control of, which is us.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, Brenda Lee's mentions says a good point here. Be aware of where it builds, where this emotion, these feelings are building up from. And Garane here has she again needs physical movement. Definitely helps her when she's feeling stuck. It clears the brain fog. Um, you know, we are, as you said, human beings, and we do need to move. We need to get the blood pumping to our brains. We need to have that change of environment, or it could be as simple as just putting some good music on and dancing away. And one more again, Brenda Lee says, allowing the emotions and energy to flow.
Yeah. Super important.
That's a great point, but we don't specifically know how to do that. A lot of people don't know. Like we read these many times. I read some. I love these books, and I read like "Open Your Heart," and how do I do that? Like I honestly asked myself that question. I'm like, how do I open my heart? Tell me, give me step one, step two, step three. Um, and weird enough for me, it was easier at that stage to say, oh, sounds very simple now, but for me, like it was a revelation. It means I don't close it. And for me, it made a difference because I know how my heart feels when it's closed. Like when you have a command, I can feel like oops, protection, oops, like close. I know that. So it's like, oh, okay, no need. It was a shift for me, like opening, let it go, let it flow, let it be. Sometimes didn't at some point of my life it didn't speak to me. It's like, what does that specifically mean? I'm very in my mind, so like, what do I need to do? Well, I don't need to do anything. Yeah, and sometimes we just out of to be out of control, to get the control back.
Exactly, and you do need what works for you. I mean, Garane likes to hug a tree. She is very open about that. Right? I'm not a tree hugger. I would much prefer to do boxing or to scream, but it's a very short spurt. I know when it's building up and I need to let it out. Or again, as I said, put music on, that sort of thing. But there isn't a right way or a wrong way for you to do this. And it was interesting, Gian, that you mentioned about, open your heart. We hear all these things. We know we've got all the tools and strategies and the knowledge within us. But sometimes we're not ready to listen. So what would your bit of advice be for those people who aren't ready to listen, who maybe sit too comfortably in that stuckness and could go into victim mode or into, blaming the world and everybody else around them for their situation? So do you have any suggestions for people that might be struggling with that?
I mean, for me, one, just for them also to be conscious that, because sometimes you don't want to make the change because you're holding to the status quo. Like, I want to keep this. I don't want to let it go. And I think we need to be very mindful of that. There's no status quo. Like, we are, again, living beings. You look at a plant or any living being, there's no status quo. They're either growing or they're declining. Like, if they're not growing, they are declining. They're not staying the same. So I want maybe to just bring that awareness that no movement or feeling stuck or wanting to stay there doesn't mean you're staying there. It means something is declining and going backwards. So what's the cost of that? Because that's the thing people are holding to. I want to keep this. I don't want this to change. Life doesn't work like that. We just need to look around us. It doesn't work like that.
No.
Agreed, 100%. If if we are not growing, the way I know it is if you're not growing, you're dying, which is the same thing. And the plant metaphor is terrific, but my question is for the people that are feeling stuck, A, are they aware that they're stuck? And B, do they choose to do anything about it? Because if they're not, if they're happy where they are, even though they're stuck, then they're not going to take the steps. But if they're nervous about doing it, I'm going to go back to the 1 degree thing. Just a little something. Drive home in a different way. We talked earlier, brush your teeth with the other hand. Like, do something that shakes up, and I use that phrase lightly, but shakes up the way you do things, because part of being stuck is habitual, and it's just being in the process that like it's it and it's easy, so you're just going to do it, and sometimes you don't have to think about it. So think about it, find a little way to shake it, to change something. Maybe you take that invitation to go out with friends even though you don't feel like it, and that will just start things moving in a different direction.
You make an interesting point there, Liz, about saying people feeling that they, whether they do something or they don't. At the end of the day, whether you do something or you don't, you've still made your choice.
100%.
You have a choice in whether you take action, how you're translating the situation internally. So there's all, no matter what situation you're in, you have a choice. It doesn't mean that the choices are always good, and going to work in your favor, but you still have
no choice is a choice. Right? If
I'm just going to go through. So when we were talking about brainstorming, let me just see. I had 5. I'll just quickly run through these. Okay, so if somebody's afraid of being stuck and they don't know what to do, here's a handy tip is to, if you write down, if you can try and be specific in terms of when, why, and how this presents to you. Okay, so do a little bit of journaling, or you could do yourself a voice note, or just say it out loud. Then ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is this situation to take place? with 1 being highly unlikely and 10 being extremely unlikely. So a lot of times people will be in that situation where they're stuck, maybe with work, moving house, moving their kids from school, and then they start looking at the negatives. So ask yourself, is this likely to happen? Is the situation something you can control? Is it a yes, no, or it's complicated? Because sometimes there's no yes or no answers. So if it is a yes, put it in a focus bucket. Do a brainstorming session with yourself. Get yourself I don't like the word accountability partner, but like a growth partner.
For you, Donna, it would be partner in crime.
And make sure they've got a sense of humor.
Yes, absolutely.
I've got to laugh. And if the answer is no, put it in a feck it bucket, and do a brainstorming again with yourself. If it's complicated, journal. Grab a cup of coffee with somebody and explain why and how and you're feeling this way, and look at your situation. What advice would you give to a friend if they were going through the same thing? We give great advice to our friends and we never take it on board for ourselves. So, that might be. So here's 5 tips and 5 questions you can ask yourself. What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to do less of? What do I need to keep doing? Because we forget to acknowledge the things that we are doing well, that's working for us, that we're comfortable with, because we're feeling confident in that area. So keep doing it. What do I need to do more of? And what do I need to start doing? There's a difference between doing more of something and starting to do something to move you in the direction that you want to go, or change the situation, the circumstances that you are in. So how does that land with you guys? Because I know we all do similar tools and use similar strategies on ourselves to help keep us going as well.
For me, I think it starts with knowing yourself and knowing what's important to you. And for a lot of people that are feeling or in that stuckness, they may not be aware. So taking a few minutes and sitting down and trying to remember, when was the last time that you really felt like everything worked perfectly, like your heart was just singing and you were so happy and everything seemed to just flow, like there was not much effort needed to be made. That's a clue to looking at what was happening at the time, what was the result, what was it that I was getting out of that moment, and really trying to narrow down you know, what are some things that are super important to you, because then from there you can look at starting to do more of, because you want more of that in your life. That's why we've all been put here, for whatever our special something is. And it's getting into that special something that's going to make things much smoother. You'll be happier, you'll be moving forward faster, and that's the path of unstuckness for me. And then I would only offer, when you are doing um, I think the first question that you had up there, what came up for me was prove it, right?
Yeah.
When you're journaling, what's not, um, it was about, well, I can't remember the first
What I
question
need
right
to
off.
stop doing.
What you need to know, the one before, the section before that we were talking about, the first part of, next question. Sorry. Yes.
On a scale
How
of 1 to
likely
10.
how
Yeah.
likely is it to take place?
Yeah.
It's also about, like, what are the facts around this? Like,
Yeah.
if prove that it's going to happen that way, because you might think it's a 9, but then take it the next step and say, what's going to make it happen? Prove it to me. Show me the facts where it's going to happen, because I think a lot of times you'll find that you're making that story up in your head.
Yeah. So is it fact or an opinion?
Yeah.
Huge difference.
Fact or
And
fiction.
it's really good exercise to get into. Is this thought? Is this belief? Is it a fact? Is it an opinion? And where did that opinion come from? And whose belief is it?
Yeah.
And what's the ulterior motive behind it? So yeah, no, great point. I've got to remove that. Jihan, thank you, Liz. Jihan, what's come up for you?
When you are doing the 5 questions, I'm curious to see how these questions turn out if we change doing by by being.
Yeah.
Like who do I need to stop being? Who do I need to keep being? And who do I need to start being? Because and now I had in mind, I don't know if the story is right, but it's a story about Nelson Mandela. Like if someone was stuck, like really physically stuck for how many years again?
Yeah, like 30, 40,
30,
50.
40, yeah. He was stuck.
Yeah.
Like there's no and the story I heard, but I couldn't prove it. Like I googled it, but I didn't find it. But I'm sharing it because it's fun. Say, like when he was, what helped him be the person he is, and 28 years. Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you.
How Madiba went about this is mainly, instead of saying what do I need to do, etc., he said, who do I need to become and who do I need to be to get over this and contribute, etc. And that's how forgiveness came to him, and that's how the reconciliation in South Africa also came. Like, if we want to progress, who do we want to become and who do we want to be to change, to be able to do it? So maybe it would be a nice, I mean, I never done it, but maybe do the questions with doing and then do them with being.
Yeah.
And see. And someone else said, who do I want to become to be comfortable with this situation as it is? So if nothing changed with the situation outside, nothing, situation wouldn't change. Who do I need to become to still be comfortable with it? Because
Those
that's
super
right.
powerful.
Yeah.
That's going to emerge then.
Because sometimes, and I think it's all very well, there are some situations that aren't going to change unless you actually physically remove yourself from that, and not everybody can. You know, and I think a good point of this is during lockdown. I remember as soon as that happened, my first thought went to all the partners that are in abusive relationships who are now stuck in a house, apartment, room with their abuser. All those children that get abused by their parents or caregivers, they're all stuck. So again, there are situations that you may not be able to remove yourself, but that mental of, you know, who do I need to become to get over this? So yeah, this is very powerful.
It's a very powerful question, and it's not a question that people ask very often, but I think it's one that everybody should be asking themselves, right? Is who do I need to become to be that future self? And I love your point, Jihan, of who do I need to become to stay where I am, to be okay with that and not feel that, you know, whatever, that agitation, that stuckness. Because I think we'll see a huge difference. And, you know, as they say, that thought just went out of my head. I don't know. Age.
yeah, we could play that card. Blame it on menopause, age. No, you guys have made some really, really good points. And Nancy, it's great to see you here as well. And absolutely, whether you do or you don't, you do have a choice, which is a good reminder. And Lily says, that was a terrifying time for so many people being stuck with abusers around that. Yeah. I think it again, it is about putting things into perspective, you know,
If I can
of
offer
what that means.
a book on that, and that's the Viktor Frankl books, Man's Search for Meaning. That was super eye-opening and powerful for me. And it's not an easy read when you think of it in context of the situation of his life at the time, but definitely worth checking out. Again, it was Viktor Frankl. I think it's Frankl. Man's
I
Search
will
for
put
Meaning.
this, yeah, I will when I do the replay post, and also Jihan and Liz, as this has gone live, at the end you can do some comments. So if there's anything that you want to add, maybe mention the book as well, that would be fantastic. So what we're going to do now is we're going to wrap up, but I just want to thank you both so much. It has been so enlightening. Liz, you've got to move to Dubai so you can join Coaches Supporting Coaches. I mean, that's...
I actually was thinking maybe you all needed to move to Vermont. That would work.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm fickle. No, I'm not.
Although you've better weather. It's warmer over there.
Yeah, I like the weather here. But yeah, thank you so much for your insights. And I would like to thank everybody that has commented and joined in the conversation today. I really appreciate it. So on that note, I'm going to love you and leave you and wish you a very good evening or good morning, as it is for Liz. You've got to get ready, go to work now. Having your coffee. And so, yes, so thank you very much, everybody, and Happy New Year again to you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna.
Bye.